All right. I think we're good, Dustin.
Cool.
So while that's getting good, and while I just want to give it some time to sort of... Oh, fuck. I mean, poop. While I'm just giving that some time to build, I'm going to tell everyone about Letterboxd.
Do it.
This episode of HooperCast is brought to you by Letterboxd. Dear live listener, right now, listeners of our show have the chance to win a free 1-year pro account upgrade on Letterboxd. For those of you who don't know, but Dustin knows, and I know, you ought to know. I've been reading this copy for years now. Letterboxd is a social network for film lovers that allows you to track, rate, and review the films you watch. You can follow other members to get recommendations. You can publish lists of films like your top 10 for the year, and a lot more. Letterboxd is free to use. There's no subscription fee. Ooh, but a pro account is going to provide you with additional features such as a customized summary of your past year's viewing. If you already have a pro account, then go, my son. You're free. But come back to the HooperCast still, just in case you like the show or something. Then you get a year extension free if you've already got the pro account. So bye-bye, 1 year of payments. It's gone. If you want to enter, all you have to do is listen to our show, like you possibly are right now, and we will read the code word at random. Then send us an email at hoopercast@gmail.com. Enter the code word on the subject line, and make sure to include the Letterboxd username, your Letterboxd username, not just anyone. That must be a valid one, preferably yours.
Yes.
In the email so that we know which account to reward. The winner will be selected during the last show of each month. You can also follow our show on Letterboxd. Just search HooperCast. That's letterboxd.com, 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 Mr. Trebek.com. This is the HooperCast, and here's what our intro sounds like. You're damn right, everybody. It's the HooperCast, number 180-something or other.
Yeah, it's up there.
It's up there. Hey, everybody. It's Connor. And look who's here. It's Dustin.
Hey, it's me. I'm back.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
I missed you, buddy.
I missed being here, buddy.
I'm really glad to have Dustin back in studio, as it were. Welcome to the show, everybody. Dustin's here. Yeah. I'm here. Let's talk about some movies. If you want to catch us anywhere else other than this Facebook Live, which we do live every Wednesday or every first Wednesday on Facebook Live, there's also YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher. There's also the blog, actually, HooperCast Pod, I think, .blogspot.com. Just Google HooperCast, and then the blogger link for it is our show. But if you listen live to it every first Wednesday, you can ask us questions like hopefully someone does right now for me to ignore.
Yeah.
For now. Soon to be. Oh, actually, you know what? We have a phone number too, Dustin.
Hey, what? Check
that out. Phone number. If you want to call the show and leave us a voicemail, it is 251-333-8732. That's again, 251-333-8732. Leave us a voicemail.
We're going to have to come up with a jingle, aren't we?
333-8732.9 weather. If you want to leave us a voicemail and it's good, then we'll play it on the show. It's just that simple, dude. Yeah, Dustin, how the hell are you, man?
I'm good. I'm tired. I'm good.
Yeah. Where you been?
Yeah. Where have I been?
Yes.
Interesting question. So I went to the Savannah Film Festival, which happens each year at the last week of October into November. So I went down there and spent the week, 8 days for the festival, and then the week prior as well, kind of doing some setup. And it's a lot of fun. Saw a lot of movies. Some good, some not so good, some studio level films, as well as some, more, independent kind of competition films.
Yeah.
Some of which I may speak about at, very small lengths here on the show in the weeks and months to come. But nothing too in depth, because these are movies that until they get distribution, you're probably not going to be able to see them very easily. So yeah. So it was a lot of fun, but like I said, a lot of hard work. And so the whole lead up to this whole thing put me out of commission for the HooperCast for a little bit, but I'm back. Hopefully, won't be gone for too long again. And it's awesome.
Everyone had to deal with my solo episodes while you were gone, which are quite different from our duo episodes.
I listened to a couple episodes while I was gone. I obviously didn't listen to anything while I was in Savannah, but yeah, I think you did one with your daughter, and it was a lot of fun.
I did at least 2 with my own daughter.
Yes, you did one with your brother?
I did one with my brother, but I think I did the rest of them alone. And thankfully, I had a lot to say, and so I think I scratched that itch for a while. Needless to say, when Dustin said he was available tonight, I was like, oh. So what I did was I stacked up some film news for us to gesticulate about. Is that what it is? Gesticulate? Or is that something else?
There you go. That works.
Sounds very sexual.
Yeah.
In which case we're not gonna gesticulate about movies.
Sure.
Not in that way, at least. Where's all the ones I saved? I saved a few film news stories. I just thought that we've sort of already been chatting about off the air. But I wanted to chat more about, and I purposefully chatted less about at the time so I could chat about it here. The first story is, of course, this Walking Dead story. Which at least the version I have is coming to us from Variety.com, if it ever loads the page. Andrew Lincoln is going to star in multiple Walking Dead movies for AMC. It was teased, I guess, that now it's going to redirect the article. Fine, I'll get off it. Basically, The Walking Dead was going to, it teased pretty heavily, Rick's going to die finally. It's the last episode, but also we're going to keep the show going for a long time. And then, spoiler alert, they didn't kill him.
Right.
He is staying in the Walking Dead universe, according to this article. It says the AMC series veteran has signed on to play the iconic character Rick Grimes in multiple feature-length projects in development at the cable network. A series of AMC Studios original films starring Lincoln and written by Walking Dead chief content officer Scott Gimple. Is that what they call showrunners now?
No, he's not the showrunner. The actual Walking Dead series has a different showrunner. Fear the Walking Dead has a different showrunner. He's sort of the Kevin Feige, if you will. He's overseeing the entire brand.
Got it.
Yeah.
He is writing them, and they're going to continue the story of Rick Grimes, with the first expected to begin production as early as 2019.
Now, as I understand it, these are television movies, right? These are not theatrically released.
If it's a series of them, then it's essentially going to be sort of like a mini series.
Right. Told in maybe 2-hour chunks over the course of one this year, skip a year, then another one, then skip a year and another one. Sort of like Sherlock, but without the 3-episode little thing.
It's basically a spin-off.
Yeah. So
what is this?
So this whole thing is weird because it's kind of unprecedented, right? It's almost like when Michael Scott leaves The Office. What if we had the Michael Scott movie? It doesn't really work because, especially with a show like The Walking Dead, it's such an ensemble. And I know that you and I both kind of lost patience with the show not too long ago, and well, actually, it's been a while. It feels not too long, but I think it has been a few years. And you and I kind of lost interest and patience and hope for the show, and so we quit watching. So I think the thing is, maybe I'm not super well versed anymore, but from what I remember, The Walking Dead was definitely an ensemble show. And I think kind of taking one of those characters, no matter who it is, and giving them their own thing minus the ensemble, it's gonna be a tough sell.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of the first. Yeah, I mean, part of me leaving the show is me just not caring or being interested in any of these characters anymore.
Yeah.
So obviously, as someone who no longer watches the show, I don't care about any of these people, these characters at all.
Yeah.
But like, even if I were still watching the show, I would really not be okay with the main character leaving the show and then the show continuing, because it is an ensemble, sure, but it's also it's also being told from the perspective, of essentially of a main character.
Yeah.
It would be like if Don Draper left Mad Men and we're just going to keep the show going with John Slattery and Lane Price and Christina Hendricks, like all great characters.
Yeah.
But I want to see Don.
Right. Well, but this leads me to the next point. Again, I haven't watched it in a while, but as I understand it, the sort of focus is going to shift to Carol and Daryl. And again, whatever, but I do feel like those characters aren't necessarily strong enough to be the linchpin for this show. And essentially The Walking Dead is, or at least always should be, the sort of staple of the entire franchise, this foundation that everything else springs out of. And I think that those two characters are not interesting enough to be, the linchpin for everything. And maybe I'm wrong. I mean, who knows? But I fail to see like a Daryl character being a lead. He's a supporting character at best. He's pretty two-dimensional, and he's brought to life well by Norman Reedus, but he's never been this huge dramatic anchor. So it just seems so weird to me that this is even happening, because who wanted this to happen? Who asked for this? Not to mention anybody who's sort of a holdover. Like, I feel like there's a pretty large contingent of people who still watch this show because they're a fan of the comic. And this is such a huge departure from the comic. I just can't imagine that anybody's really feeling like this is a good move.
No. And I mean, The Walking Dead, I keep hearing is AMC's like biggest moneymaker somehow. I still don't quite understand how that works.
Yeah.
But, I also just, I don't know. I already, like, again, as like a non-fan at this point, like I don't really care or understand.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that even people who like the show, like, that's the thing. Like, I mean, is the argument, because I sit here and think like, well, The Simpsons has been on a long time, and Family Guy's been on a long time or whatever. But even with Family Guy, a show that all of us liked, you reached a certain point where it's like, even though like nothing changed or really evolved about the show, after a while you're just like, okay, I don't really need this to be a part of my day anymore. And you moved on. So even with stuff that you like and that you're attached to, and it's like a ritual for you to do it, like, for 10 years, you're going to watch the same show about zombies where the enemy seems to never like advance in threat level.
Yeah.
And the main character is now, it's been going on so long, the main character is leaving the show.
Yeah. I feel like maybe this would have been a better move like after season like 3 or 4, but like, A, that's because the show is at its height, and B, you almost have the ability to, at that point, write it into the story where the story could be about Rick, sort of spearheading this movement to grow these people in this community until they're established enough that they don't need him anymore. And then he's free to go wherever else he needs to go in this larger universe. And then we can stay, with that other group if we want to via, their own show or whatever. But I almost feel like The Walking Dead proper should be about Rick. And if you wanted it to be that way, then just do a thing where the show is about that, and Rick will spend a few seasons with a group of people, and then that group of people get spun off into their own show, but Rick keeps going on his, and then it kind of grows outwards from The Walking Dead. This is sort of backwards, where the show was never about that. It was never about, growing people until they didn't need you anymore and then moving on and doing it again. The show is always about finding a family and whatever. And although I guess really the show is just about, look how cool this kill is.
I know.
And dude, you didn't see that coming. Oh. And so for me, it's backwards because the show's not about that, and B, you're doing it backwards, where The Walking Dead is now lost all of its speciality, because now it's just like another holdover of it's essentially Fear the Walking Dead, where nobody watches it anymore and no one really cares. Right. The Walking Dead is going to become that. And then the more interesting part of it, Rick, is going to have his own thing. And maybe people will watch those movies, but I feel like the viewership for The Walking Dead is going to plummet. And I could be wrong, but I feel like it's going to plummet. And that, the reason is going to be because it's not Rick's show anymore.
Uh-oh, hold on.
Or whatever they want to call it.
There we go.
But
can you hear me?
Take it in its own place. It's just weird to still call it that. I don't know.
Can you hear me? Dustin? Oh dear. Dustin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's up?
Okay, finally. That was weird. It was just weird. Everything froze and it was weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on from this topic, as I wish AMC would.
Right, me too.
I want to cover another little piece of film news, just briefly. I mean, because I've already sort of talked about this on the show blog, actually. So you can go read my thoughts about this. I made a little list. But this is an article from Screen Rant, and it's this idea that the success of the Venom film could stop the Spider-Man intellectual property from getting into Disney's hands, basically. It's this article that basically says because Venom did so well, that maybe Sony is like, oh, actually we might hang on to this, and either as a ploy to get Disney to pay up for it, or just as a way to sort of second guess this whole Tom Holland Spider-Man sharing it with Marvel thing, maybe we're fine on our own again. And I basically just wrote a response to this stupid statement in here, which is this guy saying Sony took a calculated risk with Venom. This is Jeff Bach, who's a senior box office analyst for Business Insider. No, sorry, for Exhibitor Relations. Okay. And he says Sony took a calculated risk with Venom, and it's now going to be a series. It seems Disney needs Sony's Spider-Man more than Sony needs Disney. If they consistently make films audiences want to see, Disney will have to buy Sony to get Spider-Man back. So I had 4 points basically to address everything in that statement. Number one, calling it a calculated risk. I'm not sure that's a calculated risk as much as it is just Sony kind of lucking out, to be honest. Yeah, it wasn't a calculated risk. It was we can't. I assume they couldn't put Spider-Man in the film as per their deal with Disney. But is that correct?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so we're reasonably certain that they couldn't use it. So they were stuck with just Venom. So they were forced to own it as just a Venom movie. They got lucky because people just wanted to see Venom. A bunch of fanboys were like, Venom, and it became, and then it was a thing. Yeah. The second point is that Disney needs Spider-Man more than Sony needs Disney. No, Disney doesn't need anything. Disney's doing just fine. Right. If they consistently make films audiences want to see, That's a big if, because so far they don't consistently make films audiences want to see. They make a bunch of flops, and every now and then something like breaks even. But you've got the Emoji Movie, you've got Ghostbusters, you have the Amazing Spider-Man films themselves. You have a bunch of examples of why Sony does not consistently make films that audiences want to see. And the last thing of Disney will have to buy Sony to get Spider-Man back. My simple response to that was, I know I told you I'll go read the article, but I was a little bit pithier and funnier in the article, but I will have to say this. If Disney wants to buy Sony, they're going to buy Sony.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to stop them. And Sony might be able to raise its price point a little bit because of Spider-Man, but that has nothing to do with Venom.
Yeah.
The film didn't feature Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any part of what I just said that you think is not accurate or plausible?
No. I think you're right. I think that to say that Disney needs Spider-Man at this point is ridiculous, because I think Spider-Man is essentially to them like a cherry on top. Like I think their entire franchise would have survived had they never been able to use Spider-Man, and I don't think it would have. I don't think that Spider-Man really factors into what the MCU does in a significant way, that if you removed him, the MCU would fall apart. So no, I don't think that Disney needs Spidey. And I think that if Disney wanted to have Spidey back, I don't think there would be a problem with them paying up for that. And I don't think that Venom is cause enough for them to be worried, or for them to feel like, we have to make this move now, or to feel like, the franchise is really that much more valuable. I think that it's just, hey, we always knew it had inherent value, and Venom being a success proves that. I don't think that taught them anything they didn't already know. Yeah.
The article, by the way, that I wrote in response says that Venom will have zero effect on the Spider-Man IP, and that's on HooperCastPod.blogspot.com. Although next year, Dustin, we're probably going to get HooperCast.com.
Hey,
hopefully, woo! So
that'd be awesome.
That'll be a thing. Anyway, there's the article. If you want to go read it in its entirety, please do. I sat down and wrote it, so it'd be cool if you read it and stuff.
Yeah, right.
I just want to address a related point in that article, and then we'll move on probably. I think this is also, were they both from No, that was from Screen Rant. This is from what is CBR.com? Well, it's from CBR.com.
Comic Book Resources.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
Okay. Disney has already recouped the $4 billion it paid for Lucasfilm. I was referencing this as a peg for my Disney doesn't need anything point for that article.
Yeah.
Clearly, because it bought Lucasfilm 6 years ago, and it's already made back $4 billion.
Yeah.
That quickly. Yeah. Even if everything else Disney was doing sucked, that's $4 billion they have returned to them.
That's $4 billion in as many movies
that they're willing to throw around.
Yeah.
Sony will not cost as much money as Fox has.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the article, it's not really a big secret how they won the money back. It's won it back.
Yeah.
They won it. They won at the craps table.
Yes.
No, they got it back from all the Star Wars movies, from The Force Awakens, Rogue One, even Solo kind of, but The Last Jedi, but really The Force Awakens, because that was like the fourth highest grossing movie of all time.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and not to mention insanely profitable Marvel films and stuff like that. Like they got getting their money back, but I think this is counting just from the box office of the Star Wars films.
Is it just box office? Does it include merchandise and all of that?
On the 6-year anniversary of this purchase, CNBC reports the films have grossed a combined $4.8 billion at the global box office, justifying the massive price.
Gotcha. So anything they make from here on out is pure profit.
Is pure profit.
Yeah.
Some guy named Paul Durgarabedian.
All right.
A media analyst at the analytics company ComScore told the outlet this was one of the smartest acquisitions in history. Not in film history, not in tech history, in the history of businesses buying other businesses.
Yeah.
One of the smartest in history.
And let's be honest, on the flip side, it's one of the smartest moves on George Lucas's part,
Yes.
because Lucas, the amount of work that one man would have had to have done in order to make that $4 billion
Yeah.
would have been insane. And instead, he got to sit back, do nothing, and get a $4 billion check.
Right. And even I know he was bitter about it, but even in a way, he got to still be appreciated for starting the whole thing. Because even people who were like, don't like the prequels would watch The Force Awakens and still sit back and go and appreciate George Lucas for us, for starting this all off.
Yep.
This article continues to say, although that figure does not factor in production costs, it also doesn't count the fortune Disney has made from home releases, digital sales, and the juggernaut that is Star Wars merchandise.
Yeah.
The company is also constructing 2 Star Wars additions to its theme parks in California and Florida.
Yep.
So, Disney is doing just fine. If they want to buy Spider-Man, they're going to buy Spider-Man.
Right.
Do you think they will, just to jump back topics, do you think Disney will buy Sony?
Not anytime soon. I think that Sony's doing well enough on their own that they're not going to be willing to sell unless the price is high. And I don't think Disney will pay up just so they have Spidey or, whatever else.
Gotcha. You know what I just realized, Dustin?
What's that?
I think we have a little bit of time for this. I forgot to mention the big film news that dropped today.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned it way back earlier in our first topic, and I totally didn't. So
this is on the heels of the Walking Dead announcements, which, to reiterate, especially if you're just tuning into the live stream, that AMC has removed Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead in favor of giving him his own spin-off films. So what they're doing now is Vince GIlligan is returning to write and possibly direct, although that's not clear. But especially he is going to write a feature-length Breaking Bad movie.
Got the article on Mashable right here.
Yeah, so when this was announced, I believe last night, it was not clear what this movie was going to be about. All we knew is that they had filed permits in Albuquerque for the filming. So it was actually happening. The article I read said that filming would begin mid-November. I wasn't clear if that was as in like 2 weeks from now or if that was going to be next November. But regardless, the premise of the film is reportedly going to center around Jesse Pinkman and what happens to him following the finale of Breaking Bad. Now, Hooper, you and I have talked about this in short sentences since its announcement.
Mine were 2 words long.
Yes, they were. But give me your hot take on this, because there's not a lot of information. It's still relatively new. But what are your thoughts here?
I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like, as a general rule, like I don't like IPs being dragged out.
Sure.
Even with the Marvel movies, like after this next Avengers film, I'm sure I'll tune in, to the other movies. But like when they announce stuff like there's gonna be a limited series for the Winter Soldier and Falcon or Scarlet Witch or Loki, I'm like, why? Because and this is apart from like having to commit to like the Disney streaming service and all this stuff. I just don't like having. I was ready to be, not to be done, but I was ready to have those stories kind of locked in and nice and perfect and in my little box I like to keep them in. You know, I liked that. When The Sopranos ended, when they kept talking about a movie, we were all like, please don't. Please don't.
They are now.
Shit.
Yeah, it's a prequel.
Okay.
It's about Tony's dad and Uncle Junior and all of that.
I don't care about that.
Yeah.
It was sufficiently covered in the show. Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is arguably the best and tightest, by the way, TV show in television history. I love The Sopranos, but there's a few. There's a little bit of tightening up that could have done if I want to be picky. Breaking Bad was tight. You couldn't cut a single episode of that show. It all either serviced plot or character, and it did it extremely economically. So when they announced, and especially the way it ended, very definitive, thematic and practical stories being wrapped up. And for them to go, to me, it just reads as, oh, well, Better Call Saul's doing well. I was against Better Call Saul when they announced that. Yeah. Even though the show is good, I haven't probably seen a couple seasons of it, but like, even though the show is good and well done, I'm still like, this is fine because it's a prequel and it's so far removed from Walter White that like, I understand it, and they made it interesting, and hats off to them. But for them to go, we're going to do a movie that's going to take place after the end of Breaking Bad. It's like, well, I don't want to see that, because to me, this was over. It was over, and the way everyone ended up was perfect for their characters. Someone meeting one end and someone meeting another end. It was perfect for like, it made sense that, character one, okay, forget it. Spoiler alert for Breaking Bad. Okay, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this, Dustin. Sure. For Walter White to be killed, at the end of the show, or to die, to succumb to his symptoms. Yeah. Right. Did he have a couple gunshot wounds? I think he did. Yeah. So you had a couple, but like, anyway, for him to essentially succumb to the consequences of his choices, in story terms, was the perfect tragic end for that character. And for Jesse Pinkman to actually end up getting away finally was the perfect end for that character, because he spent like 3.5 seasons just trying to not be involved too much in this stuff. Yeah. And for him to finally get away when you were so sure that guy was going to eat it. Yeah. Perfect. So when, announcing a film where it may or may not involve Jesse Pinkman, for me, it's like, but he's free. You could, but should you? And it's just kind of, the only thing that gives me hope is that all those people would be involved, and Vince Gilligan's involved. Yeah. And, all the same people. So why should I? It's really just the principle to me that makes me not excited about it, really. But I'm open-minded about it, I guess.
Sure. And I'll keep my thoughts brief. I could talk about Breaking Bad all day long, and I pretty much mention it every podcast we do. But the point is, for me, I'm with you. I was against Better Call Saul when it was announced. They've proven me wrong. And in fact, I think that season 4, which just ended a few weeks ago, is the best season of Better Call Saul. I think that it just continues its upward climb of becoming maybe the best show on television. It's just incredibly fun to watch and incredibly funny. And it's proved me wrong literally every season, where I'm like, all right, this is going to be the one that they're going to sell out, and it's going to be tough. And it's always better than the last. And so having said that, on principle, my knee-jerk reaction was, I don't want a movie, because I agree with you. I think that Breaking Bad ended perfectly. I think that having Walter White meet his demise and Jesse Pinkman get off free and find freedom is the perfect sort of capstone for each of those characters. Mm-hmm. However, I'll say two things. One, since it's finale, the one thing that has interested me, though not enough to say like they should do a movie, is where does Jesse go from here? That's the one thing, because we kind of get to know, and especially with Better Call Saul, we kind of get to know where Saul ends up. We kind of get to know, we know where Skyler and Walt Jr. are going to be, and we know that where Hank is. We know, of all of the main characters, the only one that kind of we don't know where they go is Jesse. We just know that he's free, and thematically, metaphorically, that's very fitting. But there's a lingering question there of, okay, does he stay in Albuquerque or does he move? And if he moves, where does he go? And does he have any sort of residual PTSD? Like, what's going on? There's enough there to kind of think he's probably not going to get back into anything illegal, and he's probably not going to use drugs ever again. But there's still the question of, but what? Like, what does he do? And so I've heard some fans of the show kind of say, like, that's what I really want to know, and I want to know it too, but never enough to stick my nose out and say they should tell me that. Now that it seems like that's what we're going to get, the thing that gives me hope is, like you said, that Vince GIlligan is doing it, that presumably the same cast and crew are going to be working on it, that they're shooting in Albuquerque, that it seems like all of the right things are falling into place, and the continued loyalty I have to the brand through Better Call Saul gives me hope that what they'll do is prove me wrong again. Now, what gives me trepidation is that no matter how good you are, no matter how lucky you are, statistically, eventually, the roulette wheel is not going to go your way. Statistically, you're going to lose one. And this is a franchise that I really don't want to see lose. I want them to win. And to me, the safest way to win is to not play. And so I'm cautiously optimistic and yet still terrified, because I just don't want a flop. I just don't want something to happen that makes me say, yeah, but if they just could have left it enough alone. Like they should have just ended it and just have been done with it. And yeah, I'm optimistic because of who's involved, and I'm worried because statistically it stands a better chance than ever of being awful.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I will say this. I will see it. There's like a 0% chance that I'm not going to see this movie, which also worries me because I can't sit there and go, well, you know what I'll do? I just won't see it. And then I'll wait till everybody else tells me if it's good. And then I'll see it if it's good. That way, if it's not good, then I won't have seen it and it won't cloud my memory. And so, that ain't going to happen. I'm going to see it. I'm going to be there opening day and I'm going to watch the heck out of it. And I'm probably going to love it. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. And I hope so, man. I hope it's good.
It could be. And
I thought there was no dramatic potential in Better Call Saul. I thought there was never going to be anything that they could do with that character, because there was no question about that character. Like, I wasn't sitting there going, how did he get to be Saul? Like, how can you write a show where there's a convincing plot that moves him towards what I already know that he is, and make it dramatic? And yet they're doing it. And so at the same token, I'm like, I don't really have many lingering questions about Jesse, but if anybody can do it, they've done it. Like, they've done it before. So maybe I
guess to me, it's just this feeling of like, but why didn't you just do something else? Why can't you just do something else? But like, there's nothing about that opinion of mine that I can sincerely hold as like an indisputable like right answer. Like, of course, why wouldn't you do something different? It's like, well, I mean, if you're lazy, then it's like, well, I didn't have to. I had an idea that could work right now, something people like, and of course a studio is going to bet on a safe bet. And
I'll tell you this, I'm also a little bit against changing mediums and doing a movie. Like, I kind of wish it was like a limited series, or just
like another 10 episodes.
Yeah, something like that I think would be more fitting. I wouldn't be as against it. But you know what? I don't know. I guess I'm just gonna have to sit and trust and hope that that happens. I will say this: Vince GIlligan does not strike me as like the money grubbing, creator of a show who's like, I'm just going to run this into the ground so I can get my paycheck. I feel more like I was thinking about it today, and it's like, why do I think Vince is going to do this?
Yeah.
Is it because there's like a burning question in his mind? I probably not. I think honestly, if anything, the most realistic scenario is this was or this was the anniversary of Breaking Bad's. I think it's the 10th anniversary of Breaking Bad's first pilot episode. And so for this, they all met up at Comic-Con and they did like an Entertainment Weekly thing. And I think probably what happened is Aaron and Vince got to talking. Mm-hmm. And I think if anything, it's because either an idea was hatched right there, or they just sat and said, you know what, I love these people and I love working with these people, and the only way I'm going to get these people back together again is to do something in this world. And so that's kind of where I'm coming at it from, is I feel like either there's just a good idea that hatched between Aaron and Vince, or it's just Vince saying, I just want to get these people together. And in either case, that feels so much more noble than money. Like AMC going, all right, Vince, we need another one. Do it. And that being the causing factor. But I feel like I trust Vince enough that either it's just a good idea or something. So, you know.
I mean, I feel like that's valid because like all famous people always say like the sort of curse of being famous is that like you can never, like the only way you get to see like your famous friends is if you do a project together. So every now and then you'll see people like, you know, like working together and you're like, I guess they're just working together because they know each other. And it's like, well, yeah, but I like this guy. And obviously like we have more power than ever now to like, to write our own material and get our own stuff on a platform. So like Dax Shepard, like Kristen Bell's like in every one of the movies he makes. Yeah. Well, it's his wife.
Right.
Don't you think he wants to find an excuse to work with her, to be around her?
Yep.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're saying is Vince GIlligan is secretly married to Aaron Paul?
I think yes. Yes, they yes.
Okay.
Correct, Dustin. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep on the path of whatever path we're on.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, there's this window's open. Crazy. Let's talk about the film that you saw.
Okay.
That I briefly brushed off while I was doing box office news one night because I didn't know what it was.
Sure.
So of course I avoided it because that's what I do. I had stranger danger about this movie. I was like, I don't know you, and I didn't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
so I saw The Hate U Give, which is in theaters now. Mm-hmm. It has a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yep.
And is evidently doing fairly well. So The Hate U Give stars Amanda Stenberg, Regina Hall, Anthony Mackie, and a whole host of others. It's directed by George Tillman Jr., who I do not know, and it's based on a novel by Angie Thomas. The plot is Amanda Stenberg plays Star Carter, who essentially lives in a bad part of town, predominantly African American, but at the insistence of her mother, goes to a private school in a rich part of town that is predominantly white, and so Star kind of feels torn between both worlds. And one night, when she goes to a party in her actual neighborhood, she runs into an old friend, a young African-American guy that she used to run around with and play with when they were kids. And after a gunshot goes off at the party they're at, they take off in his car, and he pulls over to the side of the road just to kind of talk to her and kind of rekindle some sort of old flame that may be there. And when they pull back onto the road, they're pulled over by a policeman. And this is not a spoiler. This is what the movie's about. This is in the trailer. The policeman pulls her friend out of the car, and he ends up shot and he dies. And so the film is really about Star coming to grips with her communities, both of them, both the white community, the black community, and realizing that as a witness to this crime, she needs to be the voice for her friend and stand up for him, and sort of lead what would be a social justice movement for for her community to honor him and what he stood for and what she believes was a crime, and that they need to be treated with more respect from authority figures. And so the film, initially when I heard about it, kind of turned me off, and I'll tell you why. It's not necessarily the subject material. It is the fact that I thought, wrongly as it turns out, this was going to be sort of like a CW or like a young adult novel version of the events. This was going to shy away from any nuance, and it was going to be very watered down, attractive young people fight the power kind of thing.
Right.
And it wasn't going to actually give you anything worth listening to or mulling over in your mind. And that's not entirely true. While I think there is a young adult kind of feeling to it, it doesn't feel as shallow as I thought it would. And in fact, it feels fairly emotional at different points. The film has one of the best examples in recent memory of a family unit. So Star, her two brothers, and their mother and father. It's a great, chemistry between these actors and actresses. And it's just a really good portrayal of fatherhood, a really good portrayal of just the family bond, and even though you don't always get along with these people, it's family, and that to me is something that YA novels or the CW, they really hardly ever get that right. So that in and of itself set this particular film apart. And the subject matter is dealt with nuance. I mean, there's certainly a viewpoint that the writer, that the filmmaker has, but it never feels heavy-handed. And that's because instead of giving us this bird's eye view of it, we're given a very personal POV of the girl that actually goes through this thing. We're treated to an actual story about actual characters, and it happens to be about a topic that tends to be politically divisive. And so no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what side of this debate you're on, I think there's a lot to enjoy here simply because it's a story about a girl, and no matter what you think about police brutality, no matter what you think about social justice and whatever, I think what you'll come away with is a good story that you can absolutely relate to, that you can absolutely root for its characters, because what they go through is tough and it's hard and it's real. And so I think that the choice to make this POV rather than like, a girl just kind of hears about it and then does a thing, which would feel very detached, and manipulative. I'm like, oh, this is what you should be doing as somebody who
as a
is watching
bystander
this on TV.
Yeah, who's not involved at all Yeah.
Exactly. By rooting this through her eyes,
Yeah.
we're given a story that we can't object to. Like, we cannot sit there and go, "Oh, why would she be upset about this?"
Right.
Like, because she just watched one of her friends bleed out on the pavement. Like,
Yeah.
that's why she's upset about it. And there's no political message there that you're gonna fight, that you're gonna like internally say, "Oh yeah, but blue lives matter too." And you're not going to sit there and contextualize it through your own political lenses, because it's just a story about a character. So all that to say, it is, emotional at various points. It's I'm not going to say it's fun to watch. In fact, I'm probably it'll be a while before I watch it again, but I wouldn't be against watching it again. I think there are moments of levity that help, so that it doesn't feel like, just like a slog through this dark, depressing reality. But instead, it feels like real life, where there's shades, where you can be depressed, and all it takes is, a friend that makes you laugh, and suddenly there's a little bit of levity and a little bit of spark to everything, and that comes across here. It's very real, very, like I said, while it's not fun to watch, it is fun to watch, and so it's something that I would recommend. I don't know that I would say necessarily go to the theaters unless this speaks to you, unless this topic really, really does something to you. But when it's on Redbox or when it's at Netflix, definitely check it out. I think it's worth your time. And I think it has some really fun things to say, or not fun, that's not the right one. It has some really good things to say about race relations, and some really good things to say about the way that the police handle people in different sort of compartments. So again, just to contextualize it a little bit, the rapper Common is in this, although I guess he's more of an actor now. Common is in this film. He plays a police officer. He is Star's. He's in the photos here that are scrolling through. He is Star's uncle, and so there's a moment where Star questions him as a black man, as a police officer. Let me question you. What would you do? Yeah. And so there's some interesting things that are talked about here, that I think, no matter which side of this you fall on, I think it'll make you think. And I think that's why it's got a 96%, because, like I said, it's just rooted in a real story that has some things to say, but never feels heavy-handed or like it's going to beat you over the head and call you a racist. And I think that's absolutely what it needed. So I was wrong. I thought it was going to be, very shallow and very manipulative. It's not. It's not a perfect movie. It certainly got its issues, and the actors aren't all great. But at times maybe it relies a little bit on stereotypes. But at the end of the day, for this movie, for what it is, for what it says, I got to give it a lot of credit, because it does it in a way that legitimately makes you think, that legitimately makes you feel, and it will stick with you. So all in all, I give this 4 stars. It is a well-made movie, and so yeah, 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. Like I said, I would, if I were you, I'd personally wait until you can rent it. But if you're just super interested, or just have some time to go to the movies, it's not a waste of your money.
That's always good when they're not a waste of money.
Right, exactly.
This is interesting, because this is effective. Like, this is the sort of, I guess, I'm trying to word this right. like taking to the streets and destroying property and shit, that doesn't affect change. It doesn't change hearts and minds. It doesn't teach people to see things from your perspective, or to have empathy. It just teaches them that when things happen that you don't like, you make things happen that other people don't like.
Yeah.
When you tell a story and you put us in someone's shoes and you appeal to our empathy as humans, and you can tell us a story without the need to be preachy or manipulative, but simply to say, this is what it's like for me or people I know. That's effective activism, and that's effective cinema. That's effective storytelling. That is the way to affect change. If that's your aim, it's to, number one, it should always be about the story. And if something happens or someone changes their perspective as a result of your stories, that's good. That's good movies.
Yes.
This reminds me a lot. I recently, during your hiatus, I watched Fruitvale Station, because you had seen it, months ago, whenever you watched it, and it was the same thing for me. I went into it thinking, oh, okay, this is gonna be, even after what you had said about it, like I was like, okay, well, I'm I was still prepared for it to be like essentially just some, whatever. But
sure.
And I watched it, and if you read about Oscar Grant, and if you watch. But, just in the context of the story, like forget the actual event, same as the movie, but like, just in the context of watching a character go through something, like that makes you feel something. And then when you go and read about it later and go like, yep, that's what happened too. Like they didn't really change anything, then it adds an extra layer of like, oh my God, that's horrible. And that's absolutely, especially when they put you through everything that he essentially, like his struggles, his goals, his flaws, his desire to better himself. I guess all that was going on with him. I'm not sure how much of that is necessarily accurate or arranged, compressed into a single day. But the point is, they showed you a human being, with goals and a past. And they put him in a situation where you couldn't help but feel for him, his family, and and for the daughter he left behind. And so you're talking about this film, and it just sounds very similar to me in the effect that it had.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think that's what all good art is, and what all good art does is it tells you a story, and when writers have a specific viewpoint, that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. It's when it's preachy and when the message is the number one thing, and the story suffers, then what you're doing is writing a persuasive essay with the trappings of a feature film. What instead you should do, take it from Fruitvale Station or from this, is write a story and let that story stir in your audience emotion and compassion, and then what happens is you start weaving in what you think, and all of a sudden the audience can't help but think the same thing. And I don't mean that they've changed their mind in the real world. What I mean is that for the next 90 minutes, they're going to understand you. They're going to absolutely empathize with what you're saying and what you're doing, because they're right there with you. They're like, hey, if I saw my friend unjustly shot and killed, I'm going to be mad. I'm going to also demand that police officer not be returning to work. I'm also going to demand change. And what this film also does is there's a character that Star gets entangled with after this, who sort of spurs her on and says, like, you can be a voice now. Like, what you've seen, you have a responsibility to say something. And this character is calling for peaceful protests, and the protests get out of hand. And so at the end of the day, we as the audience are even treated to this idea that the protesters themselves want this to be peaceful. It's this small minority. So now not only are we feeling the angst of, hey, my friend just got shot and killed. Now we're feeling the angst of, I'm trying to do something and give him a voice and honor him. And it's being twisted and manipulated by these people that pretend to be on my side. And so all of a sudden, everything that you think you know, everything that you think you would think, you don't, because all you're doing is putting yourself in Star's shoes and saying, this sucks. This whole situation sucks. And I think that's effective art, and that's effective, persuasion. And truth be told, when it's the opposite, when the message comes first, that's propaganda, and propaganda this is not. So yeah, if you are worried about that, I would say if you are worried about that, that's even more reason to see this film. Stick your neck out and see it, and see what the street level view of things actually is.
Yeah, when you are crafting a narrative that's basically fiction, but obviously with elements of truth or based on a true story, you are controlling the events that unfold for the audience, and you essentially have a responsibility if you mean to affect realism in your story. And if you bend the reality or you manipulate the message to your audience, all they see is, oh, I opened myself up and left myself vulnerable to your story, and you took advantage of my empathy. You made me feel for a character under false pretenses or under fraud or whatever. If you tell them a story and then for 90 minutes they forget they're watching a movie and they're just watching a person go through something, then you've done your job right.
Exactly.
To me, it seems like, especially with stories like these, the universal, equalizer for all these is always, well, it's different when it's you. It's different if you think something, but it's different when it happens to you. And that goes for almost any situation. Yep. Awesome. 4 stars for The Hate U Give. That's still in theaters. You know what? I'd like to know how it's doing at the box office. I'm going to check that right now because I'm curious. We're not going to do a full box office report because we're kind of at the end of the show, but I just am curious. So I'm going to look at the weekend box office for this past weekend, November 2nd through the 4th. The Hate U Give is number 10 at this point, but it has made a total... Okay, so it's made $23 million, which, according to Box Office Mojo, is its budget. Yeah. It's a Fox movie. Okay, so that isn't that much. But, I mean, this isn't a gangbusters, gigantic audience type of film. This is something that gains appreciation over time.
And let's be honest, the demographic here is for teenage. It is a teenage demographic. It is a YA. It just happens to be a deep, well thought out YA. Yeah. But yeah, so it's never gonna make $1 billion. But it has broken even. So anything it makes from here on out is its actual just profit. I think it'll make a little more. But I think what will really help this is its rentals, and or Netflix eventually if it sells over there. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. The Hate U Give, everybody.
Yep.
Is this based on a book?
It is based on a book, yes.
Okay, I thought I saw that.
Yeah, it's a fictional story. It's not a true story. But yeah.
But movies that are based on books tend to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of those things, before we end the show, I just finished this morning reading Life Animated. Just a really quick little moment for the HooperCast book club, which kind of started as a joke, but I'm sincerely basically considering it a thing now. So if you want to read the same stuff that I'm reading, or get a little insight on what we're going to talk about on the show eventually, Life Animated by Ron Suskind. There's also a documentary that came from this book that Dustin saw. We're going to talk about this family and this boy and this story eventually on the show. So if you want to read the book, Life Animated, The Story of Sidekicks, Heroes, and Autism by Ron Suskind. It's a New York Times bestseller. He is a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author, and this is an award-winning motion picture, so says the cover of this book. Yes.
And it is available on Amazon Prime.
Is it on Prime? Okay. Life Animated on Amazon Prime. Book, obviously, you can find wherever you buy books. So I finished that. And currently, if you want to, just for shits and giggles, I'm right now, Dustin, I'm reading a book called Waiting for the Punch. This is by Mark Maron and Brendan McDonald. And this is, let's shove this up to the camera here. This is, basically, I've gone in and out of listening to Mark Maron's show for, lots of reasons, but then I heard him talk about the book, and what this book basically is all those pearls of wisdom from all these people, the people he's interviewed, including, President Barack Obama and Robin Williams, but, a few years before he died, a lot of great people that Mark Maron has interviewed, and they all have lots and lots of wisdom, and you realize that these people are just people like you and me, going through the same sort of stuff that we're going through, or they did at one point in their lives. So it's a collection basically of quotes and excerpts from those interviews, arranged into chapters and topics on a particular subject. So the first one's about childhood, growing up and stuff.
Gotcha.
There's great stuff in here. I think I'm only like 40, 50 pages in, and I really, really enjoy it. So if you like the WTF podcast by Mark Maron, or you just like reading, you just like hearing what celebrities think, but if you want to hear what they say in an actual conversational interview about a particular topic, Waiting for the Punch. So that's what I'm reading now. There's no documentary based on it. Just thought I'd mention that because it's movie adjacent. So yeah, man. Sweet. I think that's gonna be it, Dustin. Yeah, that's it for the show this week. I'm tired.
Yeah, right. Me too.
Yeah, we're both tired. Everyone, thanks for listening to the show and watching. Oh, we're still on Facebook. Look at that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, congratulations, Facebook. You saw the whole show tonight.
Yay.
The whole kit and caboodle. All right. Well, that's going to be it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Catch us next week. Blog, YouTube, iTunes, phone number 251-333-8732. For that voicemail. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good weekend. Get out there, see some good movies. We will see you next week on the HooperCast Movie Hour.
Later.
Woo!